Linda Bernadeschi is suing salesman Eric West for the cost of skincare products.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2114, Bernadeschi versus West.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you pronounce your last name for me?
Bernadeschi.
Bernadeschi.
Yes.
Well, I read your complaint. I somehow was taken back to my own experience just walking down an East Street that has a new cosmetic place. So I sort of believe I understand what your experience was, at least initially, with Mr. West. Mr. West, you're a salesman for what company? And where are they located?
Well, they're all over the United States, but I worked for one in San Francisco.
Where are the products manufactured?
In California, actually.
Where?
Chatsworth, California.
Okay. And they have brick and mortar stores all over the country? Mm-hmm. And they have many products, but under that one name?
Yeah, they have many products.
Many products, but they're all...
Yes. They have multiple products and multiple locations all through California, and it looks like a bit of Arizona as well.
How many?
Upwards of 20 locations.
Okay. And can you tell me, Sarah, is it a corporation?
I'd assume so. Their about page.
How long have you worked for the company, sir?
That company in that location, about 3 years.
Where is the corporate headquarters for the company?
It's located in San Mateo.
Do you know if the company was incorporated in the state of California?
Yes, I believe it was.
Under that name?
Mm-hmm.
It's not an answer.
Oh, yes, sorry, my apologies.
It looks like it was an LLC out of Oregon, but is listed as inactive as of 12/22 of 2020.
There's no company in California?
It just says the jurisdiction in which the LLC was created is Oregon. That's as far as I could tell. They have a company address that's listed in a head office in Portland, Oregon.
What do you know about Portland, Oregon?
It's a lot of hippies.
A lot of hippies. What about your company?
Oh.
Do you know anything about your company?
Yes, I think it's probably another location there as well.
Do you know anything about the company that you work for? Was it incorporated in the state of Oregon?
No, it was incorporated in California. And I think Oregon maybe has a franchise.
I can't tell from public record anything
from
further.
The state of California.
I tried looking up their headquarter information, and all I got was this Cosmetics LLC from Oregon.
Okay. And while I'm taking this information, I want you to take a look and see if there are any court cases. Sure. Let's try the state of California and the state of Oregon.
Sure.
And the only thing that you could find was the Oregon company under that name that is no longer active.
It might not be the same company, but it has the same name listed in Oregon, so I would assume so, but there's no information on their website about their headquarter information.
Anyway, Ms. Bernadeschi, trying to think of the date that you made these purchases. What date was it?
It was February the 21st, 2022.
And you were shopping, you were walking with your dog. Mm-hmm. Had a little dog?
Yes.
What kind of dog?
A Shih Tzu.
A Shih Tzu?
Yes.
My fave.
Oh, yeah, mine too. She's my third one.
You were walking in a mall. What mall and where?
In Santa Clara, California.
That's where you were working?
Mm-hmm.
How long had you been working there?
3 years.
Okay, this is what the case is about as far as I can tell. You were walking. Was it this gentleman who was standing outside?
No, it was
somebody else.
It was somebody else with a basket.
Somebody else. One of the other people who works at your business?
I was the one who offered her a sample.
Outside?
No, in the front of the store.
Well, but it's in the front of the store.
I didn't step outside of the store. I was in the front of our store, not outside of it, but inside the store, and I handed her a sample.
Just a second. Sort of inconsistent with my life's experience of these things, but let's see. Had you gone to his store?
No.
You're walking through the mall. Is it an indoor mall or an outdoor mall?
Indoor.
And when you passed that store, tell me what happened.
I was en route to a specific store. A man with a basket was standing in front of the store.
So there was a man outside with a basket?
It was a basket holding a
Where
basket.
outside?
Right outside of the store.
And it wasn't this gentleman?
No, it was not.
Tell me what the person looked like who gave you the sample.
I believe he was Caucasian. He was shorter than Eric. I believe he was partially bald, and I believe he wore glasses, but I can't be sure. I would know him if I saw him.
Okay. And so continue with your story. You're standing there with a basket of samples outside the store.
Okay.
Totally consistent with my own personal experience.
Okay, so he offered me a sample of a product, And I said, no, thank you, I'm not interested. And he said, no, please. He said, you'll like it. And I said, I'm in a hurry, and I'm not interested in any of your products. At that point, Eric walked a couple of steps out from the store and started showering my dog and myself with compliments, just like over the top. And he said, why don't you come in my store? I've got a surprise for you. You are going to love me, he said. I said...
So he was doing his salesman shtick.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
From the smile on his face, it's exactly what he was doing, his salesman shtick.
Yeah, and pretty much
you work
ran...
on commission.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so now he's showering both you and your little Shih Tzu with compliments and how beautiful the Shih Tzu is and how he's going to give you things that are going to take away this line and that line and this crease or whatever.
And I'm sound like such a sweet and kind person that, you know, he's got a surprise for me.
I got it. Okay. Go ahead. So he got you into the store.
Uh-huh. At that point, he asked me to have a seat. And again, I said, really, I'm not interested. I want to go. So then someone took my dog.
Where was the dog?
On a leash in my hand. And he says, here, I'll take your dog. And I said, no, I'll hold her. And he says, no, I'm going to take care of her. And I'm going, wait a minute. And next thing I knew, Eric was practically on top of me. This chair was located in a position, well, his chair was much higher than mine.
So you were sitting in a chair like mine?
Yeah, well, a chair, just like a...
A makeup chair?
Yes.
Or a hairdresser's chair?
Kind of like a makeup chair.
And he was sitting on a chair or a stool?
A stool.
Stool. Is that right, Eric? I'm talking to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's a yes. Okay. And your stool was higher than her chair?
That is incorrect. We both were sitting on stools.
The same stool?
The same stool.
Was yours higher?
No, it was the same size.
Okay, go ahead.
So at that point, he just started applying different products to I believe he started with my hand. And then, let me try some of this on your face. And I'm looking around for my dog, like, what's going on here? And because he was very aggressive and pushy and...
Just tell me what he did without trying to editorialize.
Okay, so basically he
he put on all this goop on your face, on your hands. Somebody else in the store was holding your dog while he was putting this on you. He didn't force you into the chair. He aggressively coaxed you into the chair, is what you're telling me, by complimenting you. I mean, he didn't physically drag you into the store. You walked in by yourself.
Right.
Okay. He was using his best aggressive salesman routine. Not easy to get somebody in the store, right, Eric? I mean, it was never easy to get me in one of those stores, and I shop with her all the time. And she's got more lotions and potions and stuff on her counter than any other human being I know. And I've never seen anybody successful in giving her a free sample and getting her into the store. So you must be very good, because we have a few of those stores right in the neighborhood. You must be really talented.
He is.
Just a second. So before we finish with her, and since you originally started, Mr. West, with, no, it was me outside. It wasn't you outside initially. It was somebody else. You came out afterwards. Well, actually, I believe her. So I want you to understand that her description of the person who initially approached her was so specific. And then the fact that you came out and joined that person, because then you became a tag team, is totally convincing to me. I want you to understand that.
I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave the store. I've been held against my will before and kidnapped. And I was literally traumatized at that point.
When were you held against your will and kidnapped?
Linda Bernadeschi claims salesman Eric West owes her a refund for skincare products she never wanted.
Do you have family, Eric?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Living family?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You don't want to make a fool out of yourself here, right?
Absolutely not.
Great. So I want you to understand that I believe the plaintiff when she tells me you weren't the initial person out there who stopped her with a free sample.
I was the only one working that day, Your Honor.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Because you couldn't have got her where you got her to, which is the story she's going to finish, because by the time she got out of the store, she had $8,000 worth of your product.
Which is also not accredited by the Better Business Bureau and has multiple complaints out against them. So, just for the record.
No, that's an important record. Keep looking.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, I decided I'm going to leave and take my dog and get out of here. And I attempted to get up, and he was sitting higher up than I was in such close proximity that I was unable to fully stand up. And as he saw me attempting to, he comes back over with another product. He was across the store, and
Well, if he was across the store, Miss Bernadacci, if he was across the store, then he wasn't hovering over you. So what I tried to tell you before is I want you to tell me not what you think is best for your case. If either he's standing over you so you couldn't get up, or he's across the room. If he's across the room because he went to get another product, you could have gotten up and left.
No, actually, he wasn't across the room. He was just like, I think it was at the desk behind.
Whatever, he wasn't right on top of you.
No.
You don't understand. I don't believe that you were held against your will in the store. I don't believe that they did that. I think he was overly aggressive and he chose a target.
Yeah, and I was...
Okay, and at what point did you purchase all of this product, which is the subject of this case, because you want your money back?
I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave the store. I've been held against my will before and kidnapped. And I was literally traumatized at that point.
When were you held against your will and kidnapped?
Oh, this was like 15 years ago, maybe?
Well, I would remember that, whether it was 15 years ago. I want you to tell me about that. That forms part of who you are and who the person is that I have to consider with regard to whether or not this was a forced sale or just an overly aggressive salesman. So I want you to tell me, was there a police report of a prior kidnapping? There was.
Yes.
And did they actually find the people who kidnapped you?
Yes.
Was there a trial with regard to those people?
I don't believe so, because the guy was on parole, and so he didn't want to go to trial.
So they violated his parole and he went back to prison?
Yes.
And that was in California?
Yes, but...
So when you were in the store and you said you felt as if you couldn't leave, you were under pressure, how many people were in the store?
Well, there was Eric and the gentleman that was standing outside of the store, and then a woman came from behind the register in the back room, and he was telling me how this woman is a world-renowned facial beauty massage, whatever, expert, running drag on me, pretty much. Let's just put it that way. Anyway...
Now you're up from your chair. I want to know how the sale came about.
Well, because I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
Okay, so I said, look, I don't even have any money to cover this. And I'm looking...
To cover what?
He asked me for my identification.
What?
To cover the cost of these beauty products he wanted to sell me.
Okay, how many were there?
There was 4 or 5 different...
creams.
Creams, and then there was a device that, I don't know what you call them, but it was a device that he had used on me while I was sitting in the chair. And, you know, telling me, look in the mirror, doesn't this, you know, can't you tell a big difference? And he even took my phone and took a couple of pictures of me. He says, look at, I said, I can tell a little bit of a difference, but it's not worth the money. And again, I don't even have the money, so I really need to go. So he asked for my driver's license to register the product. And then he told me...
To register the product?
The product that I bought.
Oh, so you did say you would buy the device?
Yeah.
You did say you would buy the device. And how much was the device?
It was just shy of $8,000. I've got the receipts right
I'd like to see it. Do you have it with you?
Oh, the device?
Yeah.
No, I wish I would have brought it with me, but it hasn't been opened. I still have it. I haven't touched it. You wanted to see the receipts?
Yes.
Okay. They're right here.
By the way, what time of day did you go to the store?
This was approximately 6:30 because it was near closing time. Oh, here's the rest of them. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going specifically for one lipstick. That was all I was at the mall for. And it was almost closing.
Sarah Rose, take a look under that name.
I didn't find a device on their website. I already looked, if that's what you're going to.
You looked at this 3D ultrasound and face body?
I've just found 6 products that are creams for face and body on the website.
I'd like to see what this 3D ultrasound is, this $8,000 piece of equipment that you sold her. You have a picture of it? Okay. Could you get that for me? He's going to give it to Sarah. Sarah's going to look up this nonsense.
Thank you.
Some more receipts.
So what I see that you did was spread some of this around different credit cards.
Yes.
And you want to tell me, how did that happen?
Well, I said, these aren't even my credit cards. I'm on the roommate's. And he says, well, you could put half on your roommate's credit card. And I says, no, I am not going to do that. And he says, yeah, make him pay for it. And I'm looking at this guy like, what's going on?
What are you doing with your roommate's credit cards?
Because he's an older gentleman. I've got the power of attorney, and I shop for him. He's not able to do all that.
Is he a roommate, or are you a caregiver?
He's a roommate. We've lived together for 30 years. Anyway, just a very
He hasn't been old and sick for 30 years.
Well, he's kind of...
He may be old and sick now, but he wasn't old and sick for 30 years.
Oh, well, no. I mean...
Do you live together as a couple for 30 years? Do you live together as an almost couple?
No, he's like my father almost. We each have our separate rooms, and I pretty much take care of his house and cook for him. And he doesn't go many places. He's pretty much a recluse. He doesn't like to go to the store. And so I do all the grocery shopping and everything.
Okay. Who hired you?
It wasn't hire. I was in business with him.
Okay, well, it's getting more interesting. Who leases the store where you are? Don't look up in the air. It's going to get only worse.
Linda Bernadeschi is accusing salesman Eric West of holding her against her will and selling her an unwanted skincare wand.
Do we have a picture of that thing? Juven. It's.
Yeah, I have it.
What?
I have it. It looks like this. It's got this on one side, and then I don't know what this is trying to show you.
Ultrasound, face and body, slimming.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like she needs slimming.
She asked for something that would tighten her skin, as she said that in her younger years she had a lot of issues with drug abuse when we had our conversations, and she's asking for something that can actually help her look more youthful and help her skin tighten. And this is something that she discussed with me when we were sitting at the table.
What's your educational experience?
High school, college.
Where?
I went to like a couple of film and television schools.
I asked you what college you went to.
Oh, Olympic College in Washington State.
And was that a 4-year program?
2-year.
2-year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a brick and mortar college, or is that an online college?
Brick and mortar.
And what did you study there?
Just the basics.
What basics?
Gen Eds, you know, your associates are Gen Eds. And it had nothing to do with my sales and skincare, but my sales and skincare, I actually deal with every client fairly, and I pride myself in
Don't tell me
integrity.
that you deal with every client fairly. She wanted her money back the next day.
She didn't want her money back the next day. She didn't even come back the next day.
When did she come back?
It was like a week or 2 later, she came back to the store and wanted a refund, and I said, well,
No, just a second. Okay. She came into the store on February 21st, 2022. Mm-hmm. You get home with all these products. You spread it around. Let's say this is aggressive salesmanship. Now you're home. You had a previous experience with being taken against your will and held against your will, according to what you told me.
Yes.
So you know that when that happens, the police get involved. You didn't go to the police when you left to say, you know, I was held against my will. You took the products and you took the products home, right?
Well, I didn't go directly home. I went to my friend's house. She lives 2 blocks from there. I was so traumatized I couldn't drive, and I was beside myself.
Okay, that was February 21st.
Yes.
So what did you do next with regard to Mr. West?
Okay, so by that time it was about 9 o'clock at night, 10 when I got home, and I thought, well, I'll call tomorrow to tell him I want a refund. Actually, I called him and told him that, and he says, well, you're supposed to be down here.
When did you call him and tell him you wanted a refund?
It was the next day when he called me. He called me the next day and says, where are you? And I says, I'm at home. And he says, well, how come you're not here for your free 12 facials that I offered you? And I says, I don't want anything from you. And I didn't ask for anything from him.
So he called you to come in for a free facial?
Yes.
And
I says, I don't plan on coming in for any of the facials, much less 12 of them. What I'd like to come in for is a refund on these products that I don't need. And I felt pressured into buying yesterday, and I can't, I don't want them.
You say that didn't happen for a week?
Your Honor, she had a contract with us for 6 months worth of treatments, hydrofacials, that we included in her purchase that she signed. And
I'd like to see what she signed.
It's actually on my phone. I didn't print out a copy. I
Why not?
apologize. Because I was rushing this morning, and
Well, you were rushing this morning. You knew you were coming to court for days. What do you mean you didn't print out a contract? Do you have a copy of a contract that you signed?
Yes, I do.
Fine. I'll take a look at your copy.
I also have a police report. Do you want to see the police?
I'd like to see a police report, and I'd like to see a copy of the contract you signed.
Okay, and here's some fictitious businesses that he's got as well. Okay,
I
the contract.
can't hear. Just hand me the stuff. Okay, this is the police report. I want to see the contract. I'll read the police report while you're looking for it.
Here's the contract.
Skincare, is that your company?
Is that the product you're referring to?
Yes.
Those are the medical devices that we actually retail in the store, and we demonstrate them on the clients. And then typically clients, when they see a difference, they're like, oh, wow.
Listen, you're not selling me, sir.
Oh,
stop
I understand.
This is not a sales pitch to me. What's your commission when you sell an $8,000 light to make your skin nice? What's your commission?
20%.
So yours personally is 20%. How much do they buy them for?
I'm not sure.
What do you think?
I have no.
What do you think?
I'm
Take
not-
a good guess. You've been working for them for 3 years.
I don't know, and I think that you'd have to factor in like the rent for the establishment and all of those things. So I don't really know what the profit margin would be.
Your Honor, on their website, they state that each individually owned brick and mortar store is not affiliated with them, that they
So
run
it's
their
franchise.
own stores. It's sort of a franchise-esque situation.
Who owns your store, or is it a franchise?
It's a franchise?
It's not a question. It sounds like you were asking me a question. Is it a company-owned store, or is it a franchise?
There's a company that owns the store.
But it's a franchise.
Yes, I believe so. I'm not familiar with the legalities of the location and all the business agreements and
Who
contracts.
hired you?
It wasn't hire. I was in business with him.
Okay, well, it's getting more interesting. Okay,
Yes.
so it wasn't a hire. You're in business with a man whose name is what? Don't think about it.
I don't
if
know.
you're in business with somebody, you're a smart boy. You went
don't know how to pronounce
You
his
went to a
last name.
2-year college. What's the name of your business partner?
I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
What?
I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Spell it.
So I don't actually know how to spell it. I'm sorry.
And who leases the store where you are? Don't look up in the air. It's going to get only worse.
Tracy Gallen is suing her client, Ronald Webster, for unpaid wages while working as a home aide.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Good, good. Case 2168, Gallen versus Webster.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Gallen, you are a home health aide.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to any particular school or have any training to be a home health aide?
Well, I went to CNA nursing school, so I'm
CNA? What is that?
certified nursing assistant.
And you've been doing that for over a decade.
Correct.
Do you need any license in the state where you're from in order to be a CNA?
CNA, yes. Caregiver, no.
But you have a license from CNA?
Yes, ma'am, and also have a license for a medical assistant.
Now, there came a time when you answered some sort of an ad by Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster had a mother who was ill and needed some assistance in caring for her. Are you a working man, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a caterer and a DJ, and also a driver.
Do you get any salary from any of those jobs?
It ranges from job to job.
Usually, how much?
For DJing, a couple hundred.
Couple hundred for how many hours?
It's basically by the job, the location, things of that nature. So it can vary.
Caterer.
Catering, we're building a family business, so basically getting started with it. Probably made as much as $1,800 before for a catering event. So again, it was brand new prior to the pandemic.
Okay, and what's your steadiest source of income?
Driving as of now.
How much do you make approximately an hour driving?
Now, probably $22 with the subtractions. For
$22 an hour?
Yes.
Is that with or without your tips?
That's with tips.
Did you always live with your mother?
I lived with her for quite some time.
Say within the last 10 years.
Within the last 10 years, I moved out 3.5 years ago. Due to illness, I was staying with her, so I was not really able to work. During that time, I went to school to become a caterer, cook, etc., culinary school, business school, because I did have aspirations to open a restaurant eventually, or a catering business eventually.
So you didn't live with your mother for the last 3.5 years?
No, Your Honor.
What kind of illness did she have?
My mother was diagnosed initially with COPD. I forgot exactly what those words are, but it's a pulmonary. It's with her.
I know
breathing.
it's COPD. It's a pulmonary disease.
You're better than me. Then there's also emphysema, along with some other things that I was not made aware of until she passed away.
How old was she?
68 years old.
A kid?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long was she bedridden? From when to when?
November 23rd until her death date of April 30th.
So all the time that the plaintiff took care of her, she was bedridden?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was your mother pretty strong-willed?
Yes, very much so, Your Honor.
And the COPD and emphysema was in all probability, at least in part, if not in all, attributed to her smoking.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, according to your complaint, Ms. Gallion, you worked for Mr. Webster in taking care of his mother, with whom he didn't live. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did anyone else live with her?
My son lived with her.
How old is he?
He's 29 years old now.
What does he do?
He was working at the time for Tesla.
He was, but he's no longer.
No longer.
But at this time, he was working for Tesla?
He was working for Tesla.
The whole time?
Yes, Your Honor. The whole time
right?
from being released from the hospital up until her death day, yes, Your Honor.
Now, the house belonged to your mother?
Via rent, but yes, Your Honor.
She rented it?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was a rentor?
Yes, Your Honor.
So her grandson just stayed there with her?
Yes, Your Honor.
So he slept there, and you were supposed to come during the day?
Yes, Your Honor.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Now, do you have the ad that you got from the defendant?
I do.
I see it, Kevin, please. Thank you.
I also have the messages, Your Honor, from that ad.
Let me just read this. Okay, so you were asking for somebody good to take care of your mother because she was a great caretaker all of her life.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very nice.
All of my life.
All of your life.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in it, he says IHSS for now. Would you explain what that is?
It's in-home supportive services.
From the federal government or the state?
From the state, if I'm not mistaken.
And you are from the state of?
California.
Well, this is what he wrote. So when you spoke to him with the same parameters of your employment as contained in his ad, that you would be working for IHSS for now, maybe more in the future. I don't know what that means. I assume it means that if it works out, you'd be paying her in addition to what she was making with IHSS.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
What does it mean? IHSS for now.
Yes.
Maybe more. What does that maybe more mean?
I honestly can't recollect what that meant. I am aware that I did send that text message or that Facebook post.
Is there anything in any of the text messages you have that indicates what maybe more is?
Yeah, just verbally, he stated out of his mouth that anything extra, him and his son would pay out of pocket.
Okay. Extra like what?
Extra hours, if the hours that I agreed to work to, if it needed to be extended, my traveling time, my toll from where I was driving from, he was supposed to
reimburse you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Now, you started working when?
February 24th was my first day.
From February 24th until April what?
23rd.
And that was 6 days a week?
It varied because depending on my schedule, So every other week, I will work Monday through Friday, and then the additional weeks, I'll work Monday through Saturday.
So it's between 5 and 6 days a week. And how many hours a day were you working?
5.
So when you came into work, was the grandson still there?
Sometimes he was, sometimes he wasn't.
And if he wasn't, Miss Webster was alone?
Correct.
And when you left, was she alone?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, hopefully, the son came back to assist her at night.
From my understanding, there was another caregiver that was supposed to be there at nighttime, which I never saw, so I'm not sure.
Did you have another caregiver there at night?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who was that?
Her name was...
How long was she there?
You mean her work time or her duration of employment?
Duration of employment.
The same time that Tracy started.
Did she get paid?
I'm not aware of
Just a second. Did you fill out papers for...
Your Honor...
That's as it...
No.
If you didn't fill out papers for her, then either she was working for nothing or she got paid from you directly. Before you answer me, you had a nighttime person who was hired at the same time the plaintiff was. Either she was paid from an agency or she was paid from you or she did it gratuitously. What was it? Had your son ever applied to be caregiver for your mother? Think carefully before you answer that question, because this one knows all. Had your son ever applied to be your mother's caregiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh, makes it so easy.
Tracy Gallen claims her client, Ronald Webster, owes for unpaid wages.
Now, the agency, was she paid from an agency?
Yes.
Don't say yes if she was not. If she was not paid by the agency because she didn't get paid, then say she never got any money from the agency. And if you never filled out any paperwork, she couldn't have gotten paid by the agency.
Correct.
Well, why don't you just...
Let me rephrase that, because this is where the trepidation comes along. Neither of the caregivers were properly inputted into in-home supportive care system. So there's an allotment that is allowed where caregivers can work in hopes of having a large lump sum payment once they get their paperwork, background check, and everything else taken care of. So up until the 29th, no one had gotten paid because no one had their paperwork taken care of yet. So it's on the 29th when that starts to come about. So I personally never signed any paperwork for neither of the caregivers.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's what he's saying. Okay. So he signed no paperwork. And she worked for you from February to March, March to April, for 2 months. How much did you pay her in the 2 months that she worked there?
Out of my pocket, I paid her $110 with a caveat. It was the first time that she worked on a Saturday. I asked her to do so because I had...
Just tell me how much you paid her.
$110.
Anything else?
Because I had a calendar DJing event. I was not fielding anything up until that point.
Mr. Webster.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
You seem like a nice man. It's going to cost you money. You can either make it easy or make it hard. From February to April, did your son work?
Yes, Your Honor. He worked at Tesla.
Then I'm not finished with you with that. Your son worked for Tesla. I assume Tesla paid him.
I'm assuming he got paid too, Your Honor.
And when you worked as a caterer, I assume you got paid.
I was not working as a caterer during that time, Your Honor.
Were you working as a driver during that time?
I did work as a driver during that time, Your Honor.
Did you get paid?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prior to the plaintiff getting hired and this other woman, had your son ever applied to be caregiver for your mother? Think carefully before you answer that question. Think very carefully, because this one knows all. Had your son ever applied to be your mother's caregiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh, makes it so easy. And when did he apply to be your mother's caregiver?
According to the information I have, which I was just made aware of.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's a lot of... Your son is in your mother's house.
Yes.
You're there all the time because you're interested in your mother. You are the next of kin. You have to sign off. Did your son sign up to be your mother's caregiver, and when? Give me the month, day, and year that he signed up.
According to the paperwork I have, I'd have to look at it because I don't...
Look at it. You can look at it, digest it. Give me the date. See, Sarah, it's what's on paper doesn't always make sense, right?
Yeah.
You know?
You figure it out along the way.
Follow the money.
Yeah, always.
Always got to follow the money.
Leads you right to where you want to be.
Let's go.
According to the paperwork I have here, his paperwork was started on August of 2021.
When was it signed?
It does not state that.
And she started working in February. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So between August and February, Mr. Webster, who took care of your mother?
My son lived with her. He's, according to this, I was not privy to this information before.
Let me understand something.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is not a House Select Committee investigation, sir. This is just a court where I'm trying to figure out who took care of your mother, who was unable to take care of herself from August until February when you got another caregiver, and whether that person was signed up to get in-home health benefits. So the answer is, partially I know that your son, who lives with her rent-free.
No. I'm sorry, not with my mother, not rent-free.
Lives with her.
Yes.
Maybe not, then maybe Kevin and I are paying the rent. You never can tell. I don't know how much, and I can't ask you how much money your son made between August and February, but maybe she got a little too difficult for him to deal with because at this, in stages of being sick that way, you require a lot more help than you want your grandson to take care of. And so you needed somebody else. Now, I've just about, Mr. Webster, reached the end of creating the picture in this case, but the plaintiff was there, and so far you've given her $100 in 2 months. You got paid during that time period. Your son, who worked for Tesla, got paid during that time period. You can bet your bottom booty that I got paid during that period because I worked. Nobody said to me, well, you didn't get your form in right there. We're not paying you. Really, you're not paying me. You can find me today getting my pedicure. She stayed, even though she didn't get paid. Now, if she didn't work for you, could you or your son have gone out to do their other work? Or would you have left your mother alone? What would you have done?
Possibly made other arrangements, Your Honor.
Possibly. You mean get another sucker to work for free? You think that she should work for free? You think that she should work for free?
No, Your Honor, but I don't think she should smoke cigarettes with my mother alone.
Listen, you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is stupid.
Okay.
Your counterclaim is stupid. You just told me before your mother is the kind of woman that would do exactly what she wants to do. And what you think yourself, since you're not there and off doing your thing, somebody who's terminally ill, not getting better. You knew that, right?
I did know that.
You did know that. And if your mother chose an easier way to go than the one you selected for her, that would have been her prerogative. That's also a fair statement.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't like the caring that she did for your mother, but actually her leaving had to do with your not paying her. You didn't fire her. Okay, let's put it this way. Did you fire her?
No, Your Honor, because I did not have the power to do so.
You did not fire her.
No, Your Honor.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Who is Ron Webster?
I am Ron Webster.
You hired her.
No, Your Honor.
Well, this is you. Need a good caregiver for my mom. Need. That means I need.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, let's go to one other place, okay? And then I'll let you talk. Right now, it doesn't seem to be that you're losing, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
In March, Miss Gallen, where's my money? You know, I'm taking care of your mom. There's no money. What does he say?
He kept blaming it on IHS. He needed to talk to them, and IHS just kept responding to me and was just like, he's crazy.
Tracy Gallen is accusing her client, Ronald Webster, of refusing to pay her after caring for his mother. Ronald claims Tracy smoked cigarettes and marijuana while working.
How much do you think the time that she worked there, taking care of your mother, was worth?
Your Honor, I personally cannot put a price on that. I know she's contracted through IHSS for $16 per hour.
Did your mother have a life insurance policy?
My mother had a couple of life insurance policies, yes.
What were they, and who were the beneficiaries?
I was the beneficiary
of one.
Both of
How
them.
much?
The total was $3,700, Your Honor.
Did she have a separate policy for her burial?
No, Your Honor.
Did she own any property anywhere?
No, Your Honor.
So what was the total you received from the estate?
The policies was set to pay $1,300, which I have not received all.
You mean in addition to the $3,700, you'll receive another $1,300?
13,000 is what I meant to say. If I said 1,300, I misspoke. $13,000.
$13,000
total. Okay.
How much did you pay for the internment, the service, if there was one, whatever? How much did you pay? You paid for it, I assume, out of this money.
I have not done all the math. It's upwards of $15,000 or so. As I'm still.
You haven't done all the math.
I'm still
Fine.
making payments.
How much are you owed?
I have it there, 26. The whole breakdown is,
And
the
that's,
amount was $29.12 minus the $300.
You say he gave you $300, not $140.
Correct.
Okay.
He cashed at me $300.
My question is that at $16 an hour?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is what you would have made.
Correct.
Do you have any other evidence to support the fact that he was helping you or that he agreed that this money was due and owed to you?
I have the email here where he was asking me to send a total of hours what he owed me.
May I see that, Kevin, please?
And then this is also the payment that he did pay me, the $300.
Well, this is from you.
Yeah, he asked me
him.
to send that to him because he kept acting
No,
confused.
but this is from you to him.
Correct.
Can I see your answer to this when she sends you this
I don't
document?
have that email.
Well,
And
do you have...
I'm not sure if there's an answer. I could check my phone.
No. Okay. Now, in March, Miss Gallen, where's my money? You know, I'm taking care of your mom. There's no money. What does he say?
He kept blaming it on IHS. He needed to talk to them, and IHS just kept responding to me and was just like, he's crazy. I don't know why he keep reaching out to us. We keep repeating the same thing.
He said he never
has to
filled
pay
out
you.
forms.
Also, this is the contract that he signed stating that I am the IHS provider. If there's any extra fees that was over the hours that were allowed for her, that he would have to cover out of his pocket.
No, he said he never filled out these forms.
Well, no, that is the contract that he signed. We have to sign that with IHS first to approve me even being the worker for his mom. So once they approved me and I went through orientation, he signed that. He would be responsible for the hours. I kind of marked it on there where it states that this is the contract and this, this is what comes with it. Also, here are the timesheets I submitted.
Okay. Not necessary. He acknowledges that he didn't pay you any more than, he says 100, you said 3. That's actually in your favor. $2,612. I suggest you take it out of the $13,000 that you received from your mother's life insurance. I'm sure she would like her caregiver paid, the one who took care of her in the last couple of months of her life. Your counterclaim, which is ridiculous, is dismissed as for the reasons I already said. The fact that the defendant may have either smoked with or allowed your mother to smoke in the last couple of years of her life is ridiculous. You're the one who said to me, my mother is my mother is my mother. She'll do what she wants to do. And that's something like that. Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're done. So's your counterclaim. $2,600.
This court is adjourned.
My mom's death. I've been doing everything I can to make sure that she was taken care of. And, it's unfortunate.
I'm really happy with the decision today. I was glad that she was able to see through all the lies and everything.
The plaintiff would give her cigarettes to stash for her so she would not overindulge herself smoking cigarettes.
Yes, I would go and get her the cigarettes because that was her last thing that she wanted, so. At
best, while taking care of my mom, she did a pretty good job with that. I've never denied that. I've also wanted her to get paid.
Just blamed it on IHHS and there was no really reason for him not to pay me at all.
I've been ready to put it behind me. This has been a nightmare since my mom's death and right before that. So I'm certainly glad to get it behind me.
I really did give her the best care that I could, She was happy. She was very happy, so I'm okay with everything.
Cases like this are sad, but it really shines the light on the whole sector that is elder law. And there's so many federal and state programs to make the elderly and vulnerable feel more comfortable, to be able to stay in their home, to be able to pick their own provider. But unfortunately, because of all the overlap and lack of oversight, there's a lot of fraud that takes place with the most vulnerable population. And like you were just talking about, your mother is the one that you rely on for a majority of your younger years, to keep you alive, bathe you, feed you. And towards the end, it's just unfortunate that they don't receive the same care as we do in the beginning.
Yeah, that not being watched as carefully by the people that they cared for.
Yeah, but the plaintiff here surprised me. I mean, working 2 months, 5 days a week.
And she stuck with the job.
For no money and no real end in sight for when she was going to be paid. I respect her for that. She obviously cares about her business and about her craft as being a healthcare worker, so I appreciate that, but it shouldn't fall on kind-hearted people like that to take care of our elderly.
Maybe. Not sure. I think that not everybody is fortunate enough to have children.
Yeah.
If you have children that fit into that mold. And I think that it's wonderful that the state, for those people that don't have loving families to support them if they're sick or elderly, for the state to provide a mechanism for those people to get from their bed to a bathroom, to another room, to a meal, perhaps. I think it's wonderful. I think that this country, Sarah, can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I know that we discussed a moment ago, not bringing in another case, but to me, when you don't give money to somebody who did work in the betterance of society, and you send stimulus money to prisoners who were there because they did something wrong, and you send $1.2 billion in stimulus money to people who are serving life terms in prison, to me, doesn't make sense. But perhaps somebody will straighten me out.
Suing her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, for unpaid wages and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2103, Horn versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Horn, it is your allegation that the defendant, for whom you worked for a relatively short period of time, owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
And in addition to owing you wages, you are suing her because you claim she defamed you by calling you a drug addict.
And she went to my board telling them that I did other acts.
Well, you can't tell me what she told anybody else because that's hearsay.
Could I give you the evidence?
No, you have to wait until I'm finished.
Okay.
That's your claim, that she owes you money for wages that you weren't compensated for and that she defamed you. The defendant says that you were an hourly employee. You were, in fact, paid for the hours that you worked. I assume that you are claiming that she paid for the hours that she worked. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that after you separated, parted company, you posted some very damaging and defamatory comments on the internet about her organization. So why don't we start with you, Ms. Stewart, and tell me what kind of an organization you have.
Your Honor, what we do is that we provide opportunities for people who have substance abuse, behavioral health, who may need education services such as getting their GED. We do skills training. We have employers that will staff them as well. And we also provide substance abuse and behavioral health services.
Is it a 501c3 organization?
No, we are a for-profit company as a corporation.
And how many employees do you have?
We currently have 7 employees.
And when did Ms. Horn come to work for you, and what was she hired to do?
She was hired as the clinical director, and she started on July 21st, 2022.
Okay, before I go to Ms. Horn, I want you to tell me what special training did you have, or is it required to have? You're the director of this?
I'm the VP of operations.
Okay. Is there any special training that you had?
Besides having the master's in accounting, I have my own accounting firm.
Okay, so you have a master's in accounting,
yes,
and you have your own firm.
Yes.
Okay, and you do operations
yes,
for this. Okay, and Ms. Horn, I'd like you to tell me what your educational background. You were hired as the clinical director.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about your educational background.
I've been in the field for 15 years. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I have my LPC, which is an independent licensure. And so when she wanted to do illegal practices...
No. You're getting ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you answer an ad?
Yes, ma'am. I went for the interview, and when I showed up for the interview, she told me that I could not oversee the clinicians, BHTs, and case managers, and that I could not sign off on notes because I had an LPC. I got the board on the phone that day, and
You're getting far ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn, and I'm just telling you, who is this person?
My dad, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm just telling you that what you're doing is, by not just answering my questions, you're not serving your cause well.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Don't tell me what she told you she couldn't do. You started working for her on what date?
The date that I actually started working for her was July 27, 2022.
And were you an hourly employee?
No, I was a salary employee. Could I show you?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sarah, would you bring up a July calendar for me? I want to see the days in July.
I have it.
Okay, so this was an offer, and it was a pretty nice job. paid on a biweekly basis, $115,000 a year, with an increase the following year. The work offer was contingent upon a background check.
Yes, ma'am.
A drug test.
Yes, ma'am.
Participation in training, and any other safety measurements for staffing. So between July 21st and July 27th, when you started, was a background check completed?
It was completed.
That's all I wanted to know. Was completed. Was a drug test completed?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
before she started. No.
Just a second. Between July 21st and July 27th was a drug test conducted.
Yes, ma'am.
It was conducted, but on the 28th, her drug test was done on the 28th of July, after she had started.
Okay, so you took it on the 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
I need from the 27th to August 3rd.
Yeah, the 27th was a Wednesday.
Yes.
August 3rd was the following Wednesday.
Okay, so she worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
And then the following
Monday and Tuesday.
The third
No,
would be
ma'am.
that Wednesday.
5 days.
No, ma'am. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the last week. Her grand opening was the Thursday of that week that I quit. And what she is talking about, I talked about at the beginning before I took the drug test, and they said that it was no problem. I take medication that's prescribed by doctors, and I have proof that I take medication by doctors, and I'm not a drug addict.
Well, I don't want to get into what medication that you take that's prescribed by doctors. I would assume that we're not talking about blood pressure medication, and we're not talking about medication for migraines, and we're not talking about stuff to take care of rashes on your arm.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's say you worked there for 6 days. How much were you paid?
I was paid $55.29 an hour, but I worked those 7 days.
How much were you paid in total?
So the last paycheck that they gave me, $909.58.
May I see it?
Yes, ma'am. And I want to send up, I think I have the credit card because she had owed me money. And here are the days that I worked.
What is
circled?
Do you have a paycheck?
She did not give me a paycheck. The first one was a paycheck. The others were direct.
I want to know how much she paid you in total. Let's have it.
So for just wages itself,
that's all I wanted.
I was paid.
You want to tell me, do you have records, Ms. Stewart, about how much the plaintiff was paid by your organization?
She received 2 checks. She was paid $1,903.38.
$1,903. And that was for?
When we did the drug test, she was gone for over 5 hours. Drug testing are supposed to be done before or after work hours. Then she returned back to the facility between 4:30 and 5 p.m. that day and said that she had an emergency, that her friend was in the hospital, and so she could not work any time. Then after that, on the next pay period, Sherna wasn't.
She really only was with you for 1 week.
Yes.
On what date did you tell her that?
About the 28th, yeah.
On the 28th, did you tell her that on the 21st?
No.
I'm just asking you.
No, because what happened that day was it was a confused interview where I was about to walk out.
Okay. Well, I'm getting unconfused.
Sharna Horn is suing her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, for unpaid wages and defamation of character. Kimberly is countersuing for property damage and slander.
So she really only was with you for 1 week.
Correct. And then on the next pay period, because she was paid for those 3 days and the time that she took off, we put her on the hourly rate because she didn't work a solid 2 weeks. But at any rate, we paid her for the time and days she was there. And so we don't owe her any money. She was paid.
Well, you were actually paid almost $2,000 and you were there for 5 days.
What she said was a lie. I never took off time.
Just a sec. I said something. Don't say what she said was a lie. You were paid almost $2,000 and you worked for 5 days.
7 days.
Well, when you went to take your drug test, what time did you leave?
Well, the other person...
Just what time did you leave?
I did not leave from anything. I did it on my own before I started.
So is what you're telling me that the defendant was incorrect when she said that you were gone from the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have anything to support that she was gone for 4 hours?
Ma'am, she was gone for half the day, because that's when she ran into my office and said, hey, there's some stuff that's going to show up. Will I be fired? Or am I going to have a job? So
when did you have that discussion with her?
That was on the 28th of July.
Did you ask her what substances?
Yes.
Did she tell you?
Yes.
Okay. From my information, Ms. Horn,
yes,
how much do you think, in addition to the $19.03 that you were paid, do you think you're owed?
10 hours, ma'am.
10 hours. Which 10 hours?
That's from the week of the second week, not the first week, because I never left. I actually stayed late the day before their grand opening because she ordered a sofa.
Are you charging her for those hours that you stayed late?
Yes, because that's work.
No. Okay. What else? Right now we're just playing with time.
I passed everything and I was told I would be fine.
Just a second. Who told you that? She?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she tell you you would be fine?
I went to her, I said, there's going to be a drug test. Here's the medications that I take.
On what date did you tell her that?
About the 28th, yeah.
On the 28th, did you tell her that on the 21st?
No.
I'm just asking you.
No, because what happened that day was it was a confused interview where I was about to walk out.
Okay. Well, I'm getting unconfused. So you went into her before she got the results of the test and asked her specifically, these are the medications that I take. This is what's going to show up. Is it going to be a problem?
This is common, Your Honor.
Is who?
This is common in my field, to take drug tests before all the field.
You're going to answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, if you knew that it might have been a problem, you did not tell that to her on the 21st of July or the 22nd or the 23rd or when you started, but not until either right before or right after you took the drug test. That's when you said you went into her office and said, these are the medications that I take. Is it going to be a problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Horn, actually, I'm glad you're here with your daughter.
May I talk to her for a minute?
No.
Okay.
You may not talk to
Could I show you a picture of the inside of the facility of what happened in that facility, please?
No. You left, and
Yes,
I
ma'am.
find that the records are so, actually, you don't have records, unless that's something that you want to show me. You wanted to show
do.
me something about your employment hours? You were paid almost $2,000 for the few days you worked there. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't work out. You hated it there, and she wasn't crazy about you.
Because I had to leave because I was going to be violating state law and federal law, which she's already done, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask you, and you've been doing what you're doing for 15 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what job you had that lasted more than 3 years.
I've moved
Tell me who you worked for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years.
I can't because I was in graduate school and then I went to
So you weren't,
PhD.
just a second, so you weren't in this field for 15 years, you were in school?
I've been seeing clients since 2007.
Privately?
No.
Well, what I asked you is, who did you work for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years?
University.
Is that where you went to school?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you went to school for how many years?
5 years.
Your father wants to have a word with you before I'm finishing up with this case. You want to have a conversation with her?
You're blowing it. You answer her question directly and don't go anywhere else.
Okay.
Was that helpful?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're leaving the salary that you think you're owed. You say that the defendant called you a drug addict and thereby limited your ability in your chosen field. So show me, tell me.
I would like to submit the board allegations because everything...
Just a second.
And may I provide the timeline for what happened?
What I want to know is, what is this?
That is a falsified document.
No, just a second. It is a document.
To my board stating that I did things that I did not do. I highlighted the bottom.
To your board or to the board?
Shh. Okay, so this says a complaint was filed against you with the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health. Complaint alleges that you may have committed an act of unprofessional practice. If this is somebody filed a complaint against you.
She lodged a false complaint.
Shh. No, somebody lodged a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't say who lodged a complaint against you. It says a complaint has been filed. You didn't file this document.
Yes, she did.
Excuse me?
It's her signature at the bottom.
The types of documentation that were filed was list of medications, harassing and threatening emails and text messages, and budget left in desk. I don't know what that means.
She said I had all of my possessions, but how did she only have my budget?
I'm telling you that this is what it says.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? The CEO filed this document and you swore to the accuracy of this document. Well, this report says that you were complaining that the person who was doing intake had to have a master's level. Don't look at any papers. That's what you were complaining.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
your first complaint.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the person doing intake, and somebody said to you that the person who was doing intake was just taking basic information, and once the basic information was taken, they would be assigned to somebody else. But that's
Your
what
Honor,
it said.
She said that she wanted to get some substance use information. My state board gave me this paper that I'd like to submit.
Just a second. I don't care about your state board, actually. The question is, does she owe you any money? She doesn't owe you any money for salary. I've already determined that. I see what she was supposed to pay you. It's not that you were working there for days. You have hours that you think you want to be paid for. That's not happening. You were paid almost $2,000, and what I gather was a very acrimonious few days. I mean, you're talking about either 5 days or 7 days. You were compensated. Forget it. Do you have any security footage of her?
I do.
Put your hand down.
She said she had.
Put your hand down.
You're going to see the video.
No.
Not the video. She stated in a document she had video of it.
I don't think you understand the court process.
Sharna Horn has accused her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, of defaming her. Kimberly claims Sharna caused property damage and slandered her business.
Okay, the only other thing that I have to determine is whether or not she called you a drug addict. Now, would you show me where she called you a drug addict?
It wasn't just the drug addict. It was the false documents that I
No. She's allowed to file a complaint against you,
But I
madam.
never had a police officer come to me, question me, or anything. So if I did it, they would have come to me.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is she is allowed to file a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
They have a responsibility to look into the allegations of that complaint. Did they either sustain the allegations in this complaint? Well, this is just August, so I assume they haven't completed the investigation, or have they?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so they have not.
That's why I'm filing defamation, because this is doing it on purpose.
I'll let you have one more go at it. You say she's doing this on purpose.
Hold on.
Do you have...
Yes, I have my father, who's a witness from court one day.
What court?
Can I explain?
Don't speak.
We were in court because they tried to file an injunction for harassment, and the judge, my dad...
Just a second. Went to file an injunction against you for harassment?
Yes, ma'am. Right after I went to the police.
Just a second. And were you served with a document?
No, ma'am.
Well, then how did you end up in court?
I saw the document on my door, and unlike the defendant, I went to the court to take care of it. You can laugh all you want, but I took care of it.
You have to be served with it.
I'm actually finished. I asked one question, and you tell me that you have the answer to that question. We're going to repeat the question. Whitney's going to, and don't go off on this question. Just stick to what the question was. She said they did this thing, it's sort of either retaliation or on purpose, or...
She said that's why I'm filing defamation, because she's doing it on purpose.
On purpose. Okay, and it was the on purpose, and you said you wanted your father to testify to that and on purpose. Now go. Stand up next to your daughter. You are limited to the following. You are limited to telling me proof that you have on behalf of your daughter that the defendant has filed these charges against her, not on purpose, because she absolutely did them on purpose, but I assume that you meant maliciously.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, I'm going to keep this in secret.
Maliciously. What evidence do you have that the defendant filed this complaint and swore to this complaint maliciously?
I have no proof, but...
Then you have no proof. Then you can sit down.
Right, but that's not the question she asked.
All I want to know is maliciously. Now you can sit down. Okay, now we're going to get to the last question that I have for you, and then we're done. Do you have anything in writing where she called you a drug addict?
Your Honor, in the complaint to my board.
Okay, we're done. We're done. So now we're on your case. Now we're on your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for property damage. What property?
I will show you the documentation to the counterclaim.
Just a second. Don't tell me that you have documentation. It's a shattered window. When was the window shattered?
The window was actually shattered on August and let me make sure I get you accurate dates. I'm sorry.
Did you witness it being shattered?
No, ma'am.
If you didn't witness it being shattered, what proof do you have that if... Put your hand down.
Yes, ma'am.
Put your hand down.
I don't have it up.
Oh, put it down. Very good. Better.
We don't have witness.
If you don't have witness, then you don't have proof.
Okay.
Any other property damage? Shattered window? Anything else?
It was a broke lock. The day that she was, can I say this?
No. I'm very easy.
No, I'm saying the day that she came out to and sent the police to our facility on a Saturday, the lock, I saw her leaving that day, and our lock was broken off of our gate.
All I want to know is, did anyone witness her either?
No.
Then the answer is no. Do you have any security footage of her?
I do.
Put your hand down.
She said she had
Put your hand down.
You're going to see the video.
No.
Not the video. She stated in a document she had video of it.
Just a second.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think you understand the court process. So I'm not going to tell you. I've dismissed your case, and I'm getting very close to dismissing hers. I'm dismissing those parts of her complaint which allege property damage because she has no witnesses that you, in fact, committed property damage. There's no reason for you to continue looking up papers. Your case is dismissed. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. It's about
very clearly. Now, the last part of this case has to do with the defendant's allegation that you, in fact, defamed her organization. I'd like to see in writing what you have to prove to me that the plaintiff defamed your organization.
Yes,
I want you to... I didn't ask you for anything. Now it's her proof. Do you understand? What I'm telling you, Miss Horn, is your behavior is a little off. I'm telling you.
Because I was framed.
Just a second. Your behavior is off. And I've told you why. I've given you specific reasons why. You had two parts of your complaint. One is for wages, which I dismissed, and the other one for calling you a drug addict, which you could not prove.
No.
You're not hearing me. I asked you for proof that she called you a drug addict. You didn't have it. Now, proof that she defamed your organization. May I have it, Kevin?
This is from her and her father. And
just a second. Her father isn't a party to this action.
Can I speak to the counterclaim? Because I have proof from her. Sure. Her text.
How?
It's her text.
This is from him. I'm not interested in anything from him. Sue him if he said nasty things to you.
Your Honor, it's just not nasty things. This all came about because of everything that Sherna has done, and she doesn't realize is that...
Listen to me.
Yes.
None of this comes from her.
She's on it. Her name is on there.
I don't care whether her name is on it. None of this comes from her. They CC'd her.
This is proof.
Put everything away. Put all your papers away. I'm not coming back to you unless I, in fact, see that there's any validity towards our counterclaim. Then I'll come back to you. Right now, your claim is dismissed. Both counts of your claim is dismissed. I've dismissed her claims for shattered window and a broken lock. And these emails do not represent any form of defamation. If you have nothing else, your claim for defamation is dismissed. Do you have anything else? The answer is yes or no.
No, Your
No.
Honor.
We're done.
Easy.
Thank you. Bye.
you.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you. Our facility and myself have done nothing wrong.
I think I got flustered, which is fair.
We're doing everything according to the Arizona State Board and laws.
I actually thought that they paid her. She complained that she hadn't gotten her second paycheck. If you look at the documents say that they went right in and bookkeeping corrected that and sent her out the second paycheck. So that was nonsense. And there was absolutely zero proof that they called her a drug addict.
Except for in a valid document that they filed, which they have a right to do. It wasn't the type of slander we usually see where it's plastered on the internet or anything like that.
And certainly the defendant didn't present any proof other than some nasty emails back and forth by her father.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just being a supportive parent. Anyway, I hope she finds a job that's comfortable for her.
Yeah.
Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno for rent and the cost of 2 cats.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2170, Judy versus Calderon Nepomuceno.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness. Calderon.
Hello.
What's your first name?
Amante.
Amante.
Yeah.
Good. It's much easier than your last name for me to pronounce. Mr. Jalil, this roughly is what the case is about. You and Ms. Calderon were in a relationship for a period of time. You decided to take an apartment. You were both on the lease. So far, correct?
Correct.
Your arrangement with Ms. Calderon, which seems to be consistent in both your complaint and your answer, is that you had a much better paying job. She was going to provide the food and some other stuff for the house, and you were going to be covering the rent when you lived together, which you did.
Correct.
There came a time when Armante, who was a friend of yours, came to live with you. According to you, he was going to help out with the rent.
Correct.
He came, he lived with you, he helped out with the rent for maybe a period of time, and then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Now they're a couple. When you were no longer a couple with Miss Calderon, she stayed in the apartment for a period of time, but then they both left.
Correct.
And you're suing both of them for rent and for the return of 2 cats that they took when they left. You claim the cats are yours.
That's correct.
That's what the case is about. And some cat expenses in the event that I let them keep the cat. Cats. 2 cats. So when did you and Miss Calderon sign a lease together?
We signed the lease together at the end of July with the landlord present.
July of 2022?
July of 2021. Correct.
And it was for a year?
Correct.
And you had a job working for whom, sir?
I worked for a company called Steris.
What do they do?
They provide medical equipment to hospitals all over the world.
How long have you been working for them?
I'm going to have 8 years under my belt this year.
And when you moved into the apartment in July of 2021, what kind of work was Miss Calderon doing?
At the time, she was working at an animal hotel.
It was a pet daycare boarding facility.
Okay. Were you an hourly employee?
I was an hourly employee.
And I am correct that when you moved in July, your arrangement was that you were going to pay the rent.
That was
the arrangement.
Correct.
When did Armante come to live with you?
About August to...
That's
right.
Correct.
Shh.
He...
Just...
Armante was going to be our 3rd roommate.
You mean 1, 2, 3?
Correct.
Well, you're not roommates, really. You and the defendant, Miss Calderon, were not roommates. You shared a room.
We shared a room, and
Armante was going to live where?
In another room.
And what was your arrangement with Armante with regard to paying rent?
We would split the rent 3 ways.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how much was your share of the rent?
I would say approximately $927.
How long did you live there?
I was there when they signed the lease. I watched it all happen when they signed the lease. I came in, they signed everything.
Well, you didn't sign the lease.
I did not.
But you were there from the beginning?
Yes.
And it was your agreement with the plaintiff that you would pay 1/3 of the rent?
Yes.
Great.
We asked the landlord
Okay, so, hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie someplace else. So you agreed with the plaintiff that despite the fact that you were not on the lease, you were going to assume the responsibility of 1/3 of the rent, $927.
Yes.
So you moved in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. You left in April?
Yeah.
So you were there for 9 months?
Yes.
Did you pay rent for the 9 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
He paid rent for about the 7.5 months.
Okay. And then you left?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I decided to leave because he decided to go to another place he was offered. So
what do you mean he decided to go to another place that was...
got a place from his grandparents in another city. So I couldn't hold down the rent with her, so I decided to leave to save money and go back to my parents' house.
Now, Mr. Jalil, you see, you don't make up a story like that, like he just told me. A lot of that has the ring of truth to it. Where are you living now?
My grandparents' house in an in-law unit.
So when did you tell them that you were going to a different place?
In March.
When did you leave?
I left in July.
Did you let him know that you were staying until the end of the lease?
I
what? What?
I discussed with them that I would be leaving, but I would stick around to help them find either a different location or even suggesting that we all went back to our respected families just to, call it.
Mr. Jalil, this isn't working for you. I have to tell you something, sir. This case is not working for you at all. And it's only because Mr. Amante is very direct with me that you're suing them for $10,000. Where does that come from in your mind? Your agreement with her was you were going to pay the rent. You were never out of pocket. Your agreement was you were going to pay the rent. He paid his rent when he was there. He paid his 1/3. You then told them you were leaving. That's a whole different story than what you wrote in your complaint, Mr. Giulio. Do you understand?
Correct.
It's a whole different story. So, at best, Armante would owe you for 3 months' rent if they just left. But you told them that you were leaving. Now, when did you find out that they were a couple?
I found out at the end of April.
Were you all living together?
Yes.
So you just had 2 months left to the lease. So he was paying you. He paid you in March. You had May, June. You signed the lease in July. So it was over at the end of June, June 30th.
It would have been over at the end of July, Your Honor.
Well, she doesn't owe you any money for rent. At most, he owes you 2 months' rent. Tell me why you left.
My job doesn't pay that well, so I decided to go back to my parents' house.
When you took this apartment, this expensive apartment, that was almost $3,000 a month rent, had you had a discussion with Armante about moving in with you before?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jalil, I'm reading your complaint because something wasn't registering right with me. You say you moved into the apartment together in August of 2021. Then you go through a whole bunch of stuff about a cat and then another adopted cat. You said in October we adopted a second cat. Around this same time, a third roommate moved in to shoulder some of the rent. Well, that's not true. He moved in right at the beginning.
And that was...
That was what?
That was...
a mistake.
That was a mistake.
Okay. But Armante acknowledges that he agreed right at the beginning. He volunteered the fact that he was there at the lease signing because it was agreed at the lease signing that he was going to pay a third of the rent. So, sir, you owe him rent as long as you show me that you've paid the rent. You moved out in July?
Yes.
And you paid your rent through July, or were you evicted?
No, I paid my rent in July.
Through July?
Yes.
Okay. 1854. Armante, you owe him $1,854. That's for 2 months' rent. Got it?
Okay.
I'm not subtracting anything because you stole his girlfriend.
That's fair.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case?
Either the return of both cats or $5,000.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil.
And later today.
There were restrictions put on the space.
No.
You have to pay attention.
Okay.
Sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
Kamar Jalil claims his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, are wrongfully keeping his cats and owe him rent money.
Now let's deal with the issue with the cats. She doesn't owe you any rent. That was not your agreement with her. You moved out in July. August, September, October, November, December. 5 months ago, she's had both cats, right?
Correct.
She says they're her cats. When did you first file a small claims case?
September of 2022.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case? Be careful.
I was requesting either the return of both cats or $5,000, which was the accumulated expense of not just the cats, but also the expenses of her dogs as well. So any animal expenses for the time.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil. When the cats were either registered or went to the vet, whose name is on the sheet as owner?
I believe it was Miss Calderon.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she owns the cats, and she's had them for the last 5 months. I suggest that you go and adopt 2 more if you want some more cats. Do you understand?
Yes.
You were living together as a couple. However, your friend Armante has to pay you for the couple of months' rent that he didn't because he says, not you, he volunteered that was your agreement from the very beginning. So he owes you $1,854. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think he's just kind of butthurt that I moved on.
At least now I can put everything behind me and say that I did try.
I didn't think it would escalate this far.
All you can do in a situation like this is just you learn from it and you move on.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
This is what it is. It's life.
I find fascinating, Sarah, that people will write and or be assisted in writing a complaint and an answer, but they read it over. This man is an intelligent man. He has a serious job for 8 years. First of all, he was suing for $10,000. Come up with that money. $5,000 for the cat's expenses, ridiculous. But his complaint had really nothing to, even the timeline.
As your clerk, I know that is a pet peeve of yours when
I don't understand
they
it.
don't match up.
If you're going to tell a lie,
at least tell a consistent lie.
Right.
I think the right thing happened. I think the defendant friend admitted himself that he owed the rent, and that was great, even though he probably should have just kept his mouth shut.
And not said, I was there when the lease was signed. This was always our agreement.
Yeah.
I was going to be the
but
third.
He was honest, which we always appreciate, and so I think the right thing.
So
I think he needs to, like you say, put a period, move on.
Move on. Anyway, all happy, and they look happy. They couldn't keep their hands off each other.
Case number 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Menzel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster?
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building?
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from, that space which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay. Give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes.
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events.
Yes, ma'am.
Social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
okay,
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. And
that's what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that. When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met Livin at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's?
That's the studio that she runs.
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second.
Okay.
You
Yes,
prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, et cetera.
That is.
Now that happened according to you because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your 2 partners that the...
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all these things. Before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party. But that wasn't with you?
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct, that it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you
This
very
court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people. It makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event. So
I see your point now that you put it that way.
Maybe.
I just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion.
Kimberly Gutierrez is suing her mother, Rhonda George, for false allegations, debit card charges, and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2131, Gutierrez versus George.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Gutierrez, this is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And who is this?
My grandmother.
And that's your daughter?
Yes.
I'm reading the complaint and the answer, and this is what your complaint is about. You claim that your mother had you falsely arrested, as a result of which you spent 4 months in jail. While you were in jail, it is your claim that your mother used a debit card of yours, I think $3,000 worth, and you had some belongings at her house that you want. I gather that you've had some problems in your own life. You have at least 3 children.
Yes.
Was the state ever involved in placing the children in foster care?
No.
And what about your daughter?
My daughter, yes.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 19 months.
At what point did the state become involved with your daughter?
In May of this year, May 18th of this year, when there was false allegations made against, when my mom refused to give me my daughter back.
In May, when you brought your daughter to your mother's house, when?
I called my brother on May 17th of 2022, and I asked him to babysit my daughter.
Your brother. And does your brother live with your mother?
Yes, he was staying with her at that time.
So on the 17th, you asked your brother, who was staying with your mother, if he would babysit for your daughter. Where were you going?
I was needing to go to Fresno, and I had just received my income tax check. So I needed to go to Fresno, and I was on foot because my car was impounded the day prior.
Were you going alone?
To Fresno, yes.
So you brought your daughter on the 17th of May to your mother's house, and your brother was supposed to watch him, according to you, while you went to Fresno.
Watch, yeah, he met me down the street, actually, because there's a restraining order, so I didn't actually go to the resident.
Who has a restraining order?
My mother has a restraining order on me.
Is the restraining order that she has against you a final order or a temporary order?
It's good for 3 years, that's all I know.
That's a final order. Was that a final order of protection after a trial, or did you consent to it?
I was not notified of the court date. Didn't consent to anything.
Okay, so it was a default.
I don't know what that means.
It means you didn't show up and they entered a final order of protection in favor of your mother. So you're not permitted to go to her home.
Right.
Since that's not really the subject of this, I don't have to get into it. In any event, you went on the 17th, you dropped your child off at your mother's house, your brother was there, and then what happened?
I finally got to Fresno, I got a ride, I got to the check cashing place. It literally took me...
Don't tell me, I'm not interested in that. 17th, you dropped the child off. You were supposed to pick the child up when?
That evening.
On the 17th?
Yes.
And did you?
I showed up it was a little before 10. I showed up, I called my brother, I said, I'm down the street. He was like, yeah, I'll be right there.
10 o'clock at night?
It was almost, ma'am, I was on foot. And
it's just, I asked you, 10 o'clock at night?
It was right before 10, yes.
Okay.
When I got there, I called him. It had been about 15 minutes had gone by, and I called him back, and I said, where are you at? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. My mother instinct kicked in, and I went in like fight or flight, and I walked down to my mom's house, and I knocked on the door and was asking for my daughter. I finally came to my...
Okay, so when your brother said that to you, instead of going to the police, you violated the order of protection.
I ended up leaving and calling the sheriff.
Okay, but you didn't. You went...
Of course, yes. I was going for my daughter. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30?
Yes. I finally realized that about 5 minutes of being at the house, I was like, okay, you need to leave. So I left because she wouldn't open the door to give me my daughter. I left. I called the sheriff. And so I told them the situation. So they had walked down to my mother's and let her know that what she was doing was basically...
No, not what she was doing. The police came
and told her
with
that they
you.
could arrest her. And told her that if she did not, that she needed to give my daughter back. But because it was late, the baby was already asleep. And so the cops that came back down to me and they said, look, we don't, because they knew me.
Whatever. I'm allowing you to give me a certain amount of hearsay so that I can make this story make sense.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? But don't tell me because they knew you, what they thought.
Yes, ma'am.
You were told to come back in the morning.
Yeah, the agreement was that between my mom and the sheriff was that I could pick up Malia in the morning. The sheriff told me to call before 6 o'clock in the morning before he got off his shift and that he would come back out and do another standby. The next morning came. Between me and my grandma, I had us call my mom. And
no, just a second. What does that mean between you and your grandma? Your agreement was you were supposed to call the sheriff. The sheriff, according to you, before 6.
I called my grandma.
No, not the grandma. The agreement was you weren't supposed to call your grandma. You were supposed to call the sheriff.
Right, but I needed a ride. I needed a ride. So I called my grandma to have her come pick me up.
Just a second. Where were you?
I was staying at a friend's house. I didn't live in Selma.
Just a second. You were staying at what friend's house?
The sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to, pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else?
Kimberly Gutierrez claims her mother, Rhonda George, owes for debit card charges and personal belongings.
You were staying at what friend's house?
My friend Isaiah's.
Isaiah?
Yes. I stayed the night there waiting for my daughter.
Just a second. Isaiah. Isaiah what?
Bonilla.
And what is your relationship with him?
He's my best friend. He's been my best friend since high school.
Where are you living now?
I live with my grandmother right now since I was released.
Full time?
Right now, yes.
What do you mean right now, yes?
I'm in the process of getting my own place.
Okay, so you called your grandmother and then?
Called the sheriff.
And then?
Waited for the sheriff to respond.
And then?
The sheriff did not respond for a few hours.
Okay, so you were waiting for the sheriff to respond. The sheriff did not respond until when?
It was after 7 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't even yes, ma'am, 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Your daughter is, according to you, 19 months old? 19 months old. And she had, prior to that, been living with you.
Yeah, she was living with me all the time, yes.
She was living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now let's get back to this arrest that you had. According to your papers, your daughter was with you up until that time. What time did she wake up in the morning?
Usually she wakes up between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, well, then could you tell me why, if she wakes up between 7:30 and 8, why you would even contemplate picking her up before 8 o'clock in the morning?
Because one of my issues was with certain officers that would have been responding, and the officer that responded the night of the incident, he told me, if you wanted me to be the officer to respond, you need to call me before I get off my shift.
Fine, but he didn't respond to you. But according to you, he didn't respond to you.
No, it was
so
a different
then my
officer.
question to you is...
They did respond at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And did what?
It was a horrible mess.
Well, he did what?
They responded. When they responded, he showed up. The officer told me that he did not want to be there. He said, if I have my way, you'll never see your daughter again. And I looked at him, and I said, wow. Okay.
What do you mean you looked at him? Where were you when you looked at him?
I was right next to him, but I just...
Where, at the precinct or at your house?
No, down the street from my mom's.
Okay, so he responded to you when you were down the street at your mother's house, and he said, I'm not getting involved in this, and if I had my way, you would never have your daughter. And so what did you do?
So at that point, my grandma pulled up, and I told him, I said, your assistance is no longer needed, and that my grandma could just get my daughter. And he says, well, you already called me. The deputy did. So I said, okay, whatever. He asked me if I had somewhere to live, and I said yes, and whatever. And so he went down to my mom's. When he went down to my mom's, he was supposed to just go down there and get my daughter. When he was taking too long, I could walk so far this way, and I could see straight down my mom's street. So I did. When I did, I seen that my mom was out there just giving him an earful. I know this woman very well, okay? So I just imagined what was being said about me. Well, I guess the back door is screwed and nailed shut at the house. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's not important.
Yeah. So anyways, my best friend went over the back fence.
What do you mean your best friend?
Isaiah Bonilla.
Oh, so you brought Isaiah with you?
He went...
Just a second. So you have your grandmother, and then you've got Isaiah, your best friend, also to go to your mother's house.
Yes, ma'am. He got my daughter.
Isaiah brought her to where you were.
Yes.
And then what happened?
I started walking back towards Isaiah's house. When I started walking back towards Isaiah's house, my grandma pulled up in her car, and she was like, are you ready to go get your car out of the impound lot? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And so I got in her back seat with my daughter. When I got in the back seat, I got in the middle. Well, then she was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Your mom's over there saying a whole bunch of stuff to the deputies, so I don't know what's going to happen. And so I was like, well, I got to go get my stuff from Isaiah's. So I go to jump back out the car. As I go to jump back out the car...
Wait, just a second. Now you have your daughter.
Because I needed my wallet. My bag was at Isaiah's. My purse and everything was at Isaiah's. I was going to go back and pick it up. Well, right when we were going to go back, the sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to, pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many police cars were involved?
One.
Were there ever any more than one police car?
Once we got to the police department, of course, there's a police department.
No, I'm talking about the number of police cars. So there's a police car now.
Coming behind us? No. It was just one.
It was just one?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were accelerating to get there? Was the police car siren on?
No.
Well, how did you know that he was trying to pull you over?
Because he tried to hit her car.
Oh, that would give you a clue. So you're telling me he tried to hit your grandmother's car without notifying you in any way to pull over?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I spent 4 months in jail, and I beat my case. I went to trial and beat my case. Everything was dismissed.
I'm not responsible for the criminal justice system. I'm only responsible for what goes on here.
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume once you got to the police station, both you and your grandmother were arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in May?
Yes, ma'am.
And now uncross your arms. And now we're in December.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the same year.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're out of jail.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been out of jail for about?
Since August 25th.
Who does your daughter live with?
Right now, she's with the mentor. She's my ex-husband's aunt, ma'am.
And who placed her with your ex-husband's aunt?
I did.
Not the court?
No, I requested her.
Does the child's great aunt have guardianship?
No,
custody?
I'm getting my daughter back, ma'am.
But for the last 3 months, she's been with this aunt.
Right, because Child Protective Services did get involved, and Child Protective Services, I've been doing everything that...
Well, that's what I asked you. I asked you whether Child Protective Services
Child Protective Services did get involved with my daughter, yes.
Did? That's what I assumed.
And I've been drug testing. I've been
Just
doing...
a second.
Yes,
That's what I assumed, that Child Protective Services was involved. And so if Child Protective Services are involved, then they are overseeing the child's placement with the aunt. You have an ongoing case.
Yes, ma'am.
Probate court.
No, not probate.
Which one? Family court?
Family court, yes.
When was the case opened with regard to your daughter in the family
May
court?
18th, the day I got arrested, ma'am.
And that child became involved with the foster care system in May. Okay, so your grandmother also spent a little time in jail. How much?
2 weeks.
I quite frankly don't understand your case.
While I was in jail, Your Honor, while I was incarcerated, my mom had all my debit cards, my ID. She had went and actually, because of me getting arrested, she had went to Isaiah's and picked up all of my stuff.
You mean, just a second. Let me understand this. It is your claim that the reason that you had to go to Isaiah's house was to get your pocketbook, your wallet, your credit card that you left there.
But I never made it there.
I understand that. And Isaiah, clearly, from what you tell me, knew of the problem because he was part of this little conspiracy to get your daughter out of the house and was at the back of the house to pick up your daughter who was being put over the fence. So why would Isaiah give your mother...
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins, okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now.
Kimberly Gutierrez is accusing her mother, Rhonda George, of wrongfully using her debit card and keeping her belongings.
So why would Isaiah give your mother...
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. And the reason why all of my things were at my mother's was because I hadn't lived at my mom's for over a year.
What your case is about...
Is my belongings.
You claim that your mother went over and got your wallet from Isaiah's because I asked you what you were doing here. I certainly am not looking into the allegations of false arrest. It sounds as if you did the absolute wrong thing in trying to regain your daughter, whose custody, actually, you lost at a dispositional hearing and was determined to be a dependent child and placed in foster care. That's what happened here.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not even addressing your claims of false arrest.
Okay,
what you did was actually the wrong thing. I said, so what are you suing for? Now, you said
my belongings,
okay.
my
what,
money.
Just a second. What money?
She used my CalFresh, which is my EBT food stamps, and my CalWorks, which is my cash aid through the welfare department.
Just a second. So you're suing her for taking your food stamps and your welfare check?
Right.
Just a second. Your food stamps and your welfare check.
And this is the statement from my tax return of all the money that was on there.
On where?
On my debit card. It had over $3,000 on it, and I marked what was used after she had picked it up. And then these are receipts from some of my belongings that was at her house.
Just a second. You haven't lived in your mother's house?
I moved back to my mother's in the beginning.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You hadn't lived in your mother's house. According to what you said to me, Whitney, was it a year ago? Didn't you say that you moved out of your mother?
My mom allowed me to come back.
Because there was an order of protection.
She had called me. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
Just a second. You hadn't lived in your mother's house. You said you were living with your grandmother. For how long were you living with your grandmother before May?
I said I was living with my grandmother right now. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
I want to know what property you think...
My clothing, my husband's clothing, my daughter's bassinet. I had jewelry there. I had all of my clothing.
Why would all of your clothing be there? You were living with your grandmother.
I hadn't moved into my grandmother's until I got out of jail. I was living in Fresno. And my mom...
Just a second.
You're not letting me talk.
I'm not understanding your movements.
Okay, my mom kicked me out in 2021, okay? My daughter was just a few weeks old. My mom kicked me out due to her boyfriend.
She kicked you out?
Yes.
And?
When she kicked me out, I went through Marjorie Mason, and Marjorie Mason had placed me in hotels. I was placed in hotels for about 3 or 4 months, okay? And then it was about January of 21. I was at this time, I was pregnant with twins. They had genetic defects. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins. okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it, and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now. My daughter, she had not seen my daughter. She was not a part of my daughter's life. I did not speak to my mother, nothing. So she made an agreement that she would watch my daughter, because I had to go to San Francisco because I was too far along in my pregnancy, and it was just a big old mess.
Do you have any of your daughter's property?
No.
Okay, now, let's talk about this card. Did you pick up her property from Isaiah? That's either a yes or a no, after the 18th of May.
Well, how do I answer that when I did pick up her property, but her cards were not in there? Her driver's license wasn't in there. Her food stamp card wasn't in there.
What were you doing at Isaiah's?
So she asked...
Was this when she was in jail?
Yes, right after she got arrested. So I went down there. No problem. He handed it right to me. Look in my wallet, make sure everything's in there. Like I said, I don't know if it was her driver's license or ID was missing, her food stamp card, and the other card, the bank card. I don't know how to get proof, but her best friend, he cashed out everybody money. There was a bunch of people, even himself.
Information right here.
Even himself and his girlfriend. I don't want to get into the whole...
I don't want to get into it either. It's far too complicated for me. Is what you're telling me that you never used a card that she had?
No, I did not.
Because I'm not concerned about food stamps or welfare.
I did not.
You're suing the wrong person. You were in jail, so you didn't need money from welfare. What proof do you have?
I have my bank statement.
What proof do you have that your mother withdrew money?
She was the one that went and picked up my cards.
Oh, I don't know that. That's not what she says, and you have no proof. Isaiah's not here, correct?
No.
I don't doubt you when you say that somebody used your card. I just need proof to
mother,
show.
I know that she was supposed to get my daughter from CPS. She was supposed to go get a crib with my card, and I have the where she and my grandma can.
I just want you to show me.
Ma'am.
No. That your mother. I believe that people used your card.
She used my card.
No, I don't know that. I need you to show me proof that your mother.
How am I supposed to show? I have my bank statements.
Then I'll take a look at your bank statement. If your bank statement tells me who used your card, then that's an easy. She said she did not. I just want you to show me proof that any of these were used. I mean, we have a lot of PlayStations, DoorDash, Amazon Marketplace.
And
all
I
of
was locked
those.
up throughout that whole time.
I understand that. I suggest that you concentrate on getting yourself together. If you want to reunite your family, I suggest that you put your priorities in order.
Oh, they are in order.
Evidently not.
I work, I have a job, I go to school, I'm getting my own place, but I'm going to court, I'm getting my kids back.
Good.
Can I give you this?
I don't know what it is.
Well, I just want you to look at it.
Can I see it? You're telling me this is part of your daughter's criminal history? What is this?
No, I'm just showing you she just got out of jail just a couple of days ago.
They haven't picked up charges, Your Honor.
You were arrested on November 28th?
Yes.
I'm not going to let you tell me about this. You have a lawyer?
Yes.
As I said, Ms. Gutierrez, if you're trying to work to get your family back together,
yes, ma'am,
and your kids back together,
yes, ma'am,
it would be a good idea to think about having more children until you get these children back under your roof. We're done here. Your case is dismissed.
You have a good day.
This court is adjourned.
Oh, I love her decision. I don't want to have nothing to do with any of them. They've burned their bridges.
Perfect example of suffer the little children. So you have 3 kids, none of whom live with you. They go back and forth between a grandmother who would participate in evading the police, but where the police had to stop them by ramming the car.
Yeah, I was going to say there was something in the papers about a crash and...
She said he tried to ram my mother's car. So fingers crossed for her.
Yeah, and the kids.
But take care of it.
Lucinda Noble is suing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Ms. Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting,
Correct.
for how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
Was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children?
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021, to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list, too, of our...
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts. But our agreement was, because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well...
So our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app, 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something. It's right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent, and you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally, yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
I believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So I apologize. Okay, apologize. Sorry. on April 24th. So if you want, and then you can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, yeah, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them?
Mm-hmm.
How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something, I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job, and got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there?
Mm-hmm.
And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for 3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month.
Mm-hmm.
She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay. And your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, like the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
how far she owes you for rent?
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer. She took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds.
Just a second. Just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putty them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
If she says she doesn't remember, I have to rely on what you say to me, because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's...
Okay, if you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit. Okay. Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident report.
Yes, you called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26th April.
The police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me. But first, I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who's here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister from these 2. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda?
Yes.
On April 26th?
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was...
The daughter was the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
okay, not the
lice
2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay. And your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second. Was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to. Supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that...
well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this justified?
She made the comment that
so she called
Tiffany has not been there.
Okay, you had to ask her
My words
why.
to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well...
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay. Now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their chores.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce what I just said. You would have had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble?
It was many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. I've had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me immediately.
No. So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my tests.
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay. That's what this report says. You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right away.
Do you have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me, that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history, didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history. So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you, we're done.
My
This court is
property,
adjourned.
We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like an oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's
for
basis
the claim.
itself, yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no, they're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I...
खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है तू शाहीन है परवाज़ है काम तेरा